I was inspired reading a book by photographer Irving Penn called Worlds in a Small Room. In this book he talks a lot about how he loves working with natural light, so much so that he developed his own outdoor portable studio that he could take with him to the various unusual and pretty exotic locations that he travelled to back in the 1950s, 1960s and through his career with Vogue magazine. He'd stay on at these locations in places like Papua New Guinea and Morocco and various countries in Africa to capture portraits of the local people. I work in northern Thailand and I had this idea that I could develop a portable daylight studio as well, which I have done. Based somewhat on pens, but without much detail available, I had to use my imagination. I also wanted to make it smaller so that it was easier to set up. Usually I work on my own or with just one assistant, and so this just made it much more practical to have something that was portable and lightweight and easier to set up in the villages. Working with my outdoor studio is much more than just taking a backdrop outside. It's a matter of setting it up correctly so that we make most advantage of the available light and the reflectors that we use. Setting it up, we make sure that the sun is not too high in the sky, so in the morning or in the later afternoon, and that the sun is behind the backdrop, so backlighting our subjects. Above the backdrop there's a diffuser which just softens the sunlight and puts a nice hair light and backlight on the subjects without it being too strong. And then the light that reflects up into the faces of our subjects, either off the ground or off some light-coloured sheeting on the ground, and now also we have incorporated a reflector into the mix. It just adds a real beautiful dynamic and depth to a portrait. And because the background is, when we're working with the black, because it's black and because it's shielded from having the sunlight be able to come through it, I use a piece of black polythene on the back, then the background is significantly darker than the skin tones of my subjects because it's in the shade and because it's not receiving much light at all. So that in photographic terms it's quite a number of stops, maybe 3 or 4 stops or more darker than the subject's faces, which causes it to be very dark and very black, so we don't have to do much post-processing to get a real nice, deep, clean, inky black on the background. And with the white background, it's absolutely the opposite. We let the light shine through it, and shining through the thin white fabric, it causes it to be overexposed when we expose and set our cameras for the light coming from our subjects' faces. Of course, the face of the person is where you want your exposure to be correct, and when it's correct on the face, it is well overexposed on the white background, which just takes out all of the detail and leaves a nice clean white background. Over the years I've developed the studio. I think the first time I set it up, it wasn't even a studio, it was just a piece of velveteen backdrop hung from a bamboo pole on a tree in an Aka village in Doi Salong. And these portraits, they're nice pictures, but the quality of the light compared to the quality of the light we've got now is a lot different. And as I've worked through it, I've changed it, I've just sought to improve it each step of the way. So progressing on from hanging a piece of velveteen on a bamboo pole, I constructed a series of fiberglass tent poles and backdrop and overhead diffuser, and set this up a few times in villages, and it worked well, but I tweaked it somewhat. The backdrop wasn't full length and that was inhibiting, and if there was any slight breeze it was just not stable enough. So actually with the help of a German engineer who was visiting and also a photography enthusiast himself, we made some tweaks to it. He suggested some good things, so now we've got some stainless steel poles and the diffuser is larger, and then also in time I've added a second backdrop to it. So it's much more stable. We've got the option now of a black backdrop and a white backdrop, and now the diffuser is even larger than it was before. So going from fairly small to medium size, and now we've extended the length of the diffuser, and this just allows us to work longer. So when the sun reaches up a bit higher, we've still got shadow on our subjects. And I dare say into the future it'll keep morphing and changing as we find new ways of improving it. One of the key things that's not at all technical about the outdoor studio that I love is that we are able to photograph people in their comfort zone. We're working in their villages, outside their homes and in their natural environments. And if you bring people into a studio, anybody, let alone a person that's living in a small village on a mountain in northern Thailand, but if you bring anybody into a photography studio, most people are going to be a little bit apprehensive. They're going to be a little bit wowed by what they see, all the equipment, all the trappings of a studio. And it's just not a natural situation at all. So working outdoors with available light in the environment where people are comfortable is just wonderful, and it allows us to get some very natural, very relaxed photographs. The other key thing in this aspect is having somebody with me who connects us. So usually I'm working in a village where I know somebody. We've got a relationship with the people, and they've got a trust with the people that we're photographing, and this helps immensely in getting people to relax and just enjoy the whole process. Up in one of the Karen villages, we did some of the initial photographs with the outdoor studio. We returned there a number of years later and worked some more. And I was there with my assistant, that's his home village, so we have good relationship. And his mum had remembered and she'd enjoyed the first photo shoot that we'd done. It was probably 6 or 7 years earlier. So the next time we came and set the studio up, she came with 3 changes of clothes because she just wanted to make the most of the opportunity. And now we've set the studio up a number of times with workshop customers, and we're running our photography workshops teaching the principles and the ideals behind working with available light and manipulating and balancing the available light using the direction of the sun and reflectors to create stunning portraits. So check out the details if you're interested and make a booking to come and enjoy using the natural light outdoor studio yourself. Please do subscribe to our YouTube channel. We've got lots of great videos up there already, and there's more on the way.